day one, we were at the New York residence, and Nandi and Gabi and Andras came and picked us up, and we all were pretty emotional. There was naturally a lot of hugging, embracing, and crying, and getting to meet everybody and all the introductions. Of course, I know all of them, and it was just like not a day had passed since I had seen them, even though there was 35 years since I had last seen them. But it was really wonderful. We left there shortly, and we went. First place was to go and honor those relatives that unfortunately in those 35 years had passed on, and weren't going to be able to meet up with them this time. So we were going to go out to the cemetery. We stopped and bought some flowers so that we could lay at the gravesite. We went out to the Jewish cemetery called Rakushkeres Temetu, which, as I mentioned, is the cemetery there. And we went inside. It's a very different cemetery because the headstones are above ground, so very different than it is in the United States. We went there and we first visited Dagibachi, Anineni, and Juji's grave. They're all three in one grave. Luckily, Nandi had the foresight to bring a picture of all three of them, so those that didn't know who they were would be able to see them, and we could talk about them, and they would have a visual of who was in that grave. And so we talked at length about them. Once we left there, we went over to Naidmama's grave, and we had pictures of her and also of our grandfather, Dr. Belvart Deju. He is not there, although his name is on the headstone, and his name is inscribed there under hers. So we had a chance to go visit there as well. It's Dr. Humboldt Imra. This is first.
And who's who in the picture?
So this is my uncle. This is Humboldt Imre. This is Humboldt Imre Anineni, the wife. And this is their one daughter, Juji. So this is Gabi and Nandi's mother.
Okay. So these are all three of them in the picture?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that's the three of them. And so their daughter was born, so she had the same last name. She was born as Humboldt, same last name. We called her Juji, but her name was Zuzanna. That was her birth name. But then she got married, so her last name was Galambos Károly, was her husband, me. So wife of Galambos Károly.
Your last visit was in 1980?
When
81?
No, 1985.
Yeah, 5. But,
85 when my
yeah.
mama died.
34
Which was
years ago.
Yeah, when she died. When my mom and I came here last time, it was in 1985. And that was because my mom and Auntie Nani's mother died, my grandmother. So when they called to say my grandma died, my mom and I flew here to be with them. So my mom and her sister could bury their mother together. So I came. My dad couldn't come, so I accompanied my mom. We were here. And ironically, yesterday was the anniversary of my grandma's death when we last came.
Really?
Wow.
Is that weird?
That is really weird.
That you guys made these reservations for June 2nd. Sang songs together, played together. Had their momentary little squabble. But Gubby being a couple of years older, she always put him in check. My grandmother's husband, my grandfather, he was a doctor. He was a pediatrician.
I thought he died during.
Yeah, so he was a pediatrician. So he was Dr. Valvard, his Valvard last name, Dejo is his first name, and then this grave right here though is, you always put the name of whose grave it is on the top, and so it's my grandmother, so she was Dr. Valvard Dejeuner, so the wife of Dr. Valvard Dejeun.
And then he died in the Holocaust, right?
Yeah. When my mom was born in 1930, and they came, and when the Germans came and took them, was when she was 14 years old. So that would have been 1944, and that's when they were all gathered up and taken to Auschwitz
Grandmother's mom.
and separated from their parents. And my grandfather died in 1944. So my mom was 14 years old, and Auntie Nani was her older sister by 6 years. So Auntie Nani was 20, and my mom was 14. Because my grandmother lived 61 years after her husband died. She never remarried. She always said that she could find another
41.
husband.
41 years.
Oh, yeah. 41. She lived 41 years longer. She said she could always find another husband, but she would never be able to find a replacement father for her two daughters, and she didn't want to. They already lost their father, so she didn't want to bring anybody else into the home, so she stayed a widow. And really at a young age, because there was a big age difference between them.
9 years.
I want to
So this is the funeral you came back for?
1985 when my mom and I came.
I'll show you a bit here. She is the.
That's my grandmother and my grandfather. My mom's parents. My mom and Auntie Nani's parents. So your great-grandparents.
And that's her?
No, that's Gabi and Nandi when they were little.
Oh.
And that's Daddy. That's my mama.
Yeah.
That's who's here.
T-shirts from America.
You look exactly the same.
They look the same. Yeah, that's my mom and Auntie Nini's mother. We always talk about her, Davy. We love Davy.
How could you say your grandmother's mother?
Great grandmother.
Great.
Yeah, as Davy.
Yeah.
Mother or Davy. In English, it's great grandmother.
Great.
Grandmother. So these are great grandparents.
Yeah. And this, he was a doctor.
Yeah, that's
So we're laying flowers for our relatives, and we found out that each grave, they're not actually buried side by side, they're actually on top of each other. So it goes the first one that died, then the second, then on top, and then all their names are on one tombstone, which is different.
One of the things we learned is that they lay rocks at the gravestone, and that's because the Jewish people, unfortunately, one of the things that's symbolic is that they didn't always have money to be able to purchase flowers, so they would honor the dead by taking a rock and putting that at the gravestone. Once we left there, we drove to a castle called the Vajda Hunyadvár, and we walked around there, and we laughed quite a bit because we were trying to teach Jen how to say it, and she struggled a bit with it, so that was a lot of fun that we had at her expense, but she was a real sport about it, so it was really cute.
It's called Vajda Hunyadvár. This castle is called, say it.
I don't know, I forgot.
Say how to say it.
That's not.
Okay, Michael, what is this castle called?
I couldn't tell you. What is it called again? Banya Hunyadvár. That's what it is.
Nick, what is this castle called?
Banya Hunyadvár. Banya Hunyadvár is the name of this castle.
Okay. From the Vajda Hunyadvár, we sat down there in the park, and we sat across from a place Mickey said that actually George and his family had lunch there in the park, and we sat and had some drinks. And there, Gabi's one of her daughters, Audrey, joined us, so we had a chance to meet up with her. And we sat there for just a little bit, and then walked over to the Hero Square, which in Hungarian is called the Hősök tér. And we walked around there and took some pictures.
They made Go ahead.
We're in Hero Square in Budapest.
These are all the Hungarian heroes and generals, and from what I understand from our family here, these are the Hungarians that made Hungary hungry. And
from there, we walked quite a bit in order to get to a place where we could have some lunch. We didn't have breakfast that morning, so we had a nice big family reunion lunch at the Paprika Vendéglő.
This is the next stop where we're eating. Paprika Vendéglő, is that how you say it? Supposedly they have real authentic Hungarian food.
We're about to go have some chicken paprika.
Ooh, what else? Some no kid leaf for Laszlo?
Oh, Laszlo's gonna get down on some no kid leaf. We're all ready to eat.
And there, Krista, which is Nandi's wife, joined us, so we met her for the first time. So the party was just growing at each place we went to by having additional people showing up, so that was really great. There's enough people in the family that speak some English that with the help of translation, everybody seemed to be understanding one another, and really we didn't have any issues with the language barrier, so that was really great. Once we left the Paprika Vendéglő, we decided that we were going to drive over to the other side of the Danube, which is called the Buda side. The side of the city is Pest. So we drove over there. We had to drive across the Csechenyi Landshid, which is the chain bridge. And we went up to the Gellérthegy, and the Citadella is up there. They have what they call a Szabadság Szobor, and we sat down there and again had some drinks. Drink seems to be the theme in Hungary. Every place we go, we sit down and there's beer and pálinka. So everybody got acquainted very quickly with the pálinka.
Wait, what? Oh, that's crazy.
That's it. That's all I can get.
What'd you see in there?
That's all you get? I guess that's all you get.
What'd you see in there?
I saw the parliament, the bridge, Ferris wheel, the whole city, all the traffic.
Michael, you see that? I want you to take a picture of me. Like that.
Huh?
Of me up there.
Say dada.
Alright, so this is my second time back to Budapest, and I'm just going to tell everybody right now this is the most beautiful city to bring a woman to. So, for whoever is doubting this, just revert back to this video and talk to me.
And Laszlo agrees.
Just wait. What do you think about this place?
It is the most beautiful place in the whole wide world.
No, you have subjective.
And we have had the best. What have we had the best of? Hungarian food ever.
The best Hungarian sausage in all of Hungary.
Oh, guess what we're gonna have on Wednesday?
What?
Bakányér.
What's that?
The wooden plate, Mickey, with all the sausages, all the meats. We spent several hours up there and walked around. There's a lot of things to see up there. Took a lot of pictures. Again, just talking, getting to know one another and getting acquainted. We also walked around and we ended up going to a place underneath a bridge. They have an area where there's restaurants and you can sit outside, and it's kind of like a park atmosphere. And down by the Danube, that's called the Kopasi Gat, I believe it is. And there was like a veranda restaurant, and we sat down there and again had more what they call udite, which is some kind of refreshments. Again, those refreshments were pálinka and more beer. So a lot of that happened, and of course you'll hear that mentioned throughout the week because there was a lot of that going on.